Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to this review of the AMX ACMLE 46 Tier 7 French tank destroyer. Now historically this is a machine that was, as the name suggests, designed in 1946. It never made it out of the blueprint stage, so it was never put into production or anything. This was a post-war French design, and it drew inspiration quite heavily, looking at it, this may not surprise you, quite heavily from the German Jagdpanther tank design. And in the game, they both occupy a Tier 7 tank destroyer slot. So what do you actually get with this machine? Well, 820 health, that's pretty much par for the course for a Tier 7 tank destroyer. 50-ton machine, this is not a lightweight tank. This is actually based on the chassis of the AMX M4, you can see here. But the M4, even though it's got a turret, is only 5 tons heavier. This is a pretty weighty machine. With an 850 horsepower engine, so you get a respectable power to weight ratio on this tank. It's not completely terrible, and 50 kilometers an hour top speed means that this thing can move around fairly quickly. Now don't expect to be bombing it around at 50 all the time. Generally speaking, you'll be going closer to 40 as you move around. Traverse speed of 26 is rather underwhelming. It's not great. Hull armor. Now, hull armor is actually 120mm, which is pretty nice. And there is a bit of an angle to it, but the sort of tanks you're going to be facing can punch through that, and if they're going to have any trouble with that, you've got these massive great tumours on top of your tank just to make life a little bit more interesting. But the lower plate is not an easy target, so if anyone aims there, you're likely just to bounce them. I will talk about the armour in more detail in a bit. I'll also talk about the guns in more detail in just a bit. 350 meter view range, which is not very good at all. 750 meter signal range, which is good, but no one really gets excited about that. So what do people get excited about? Well, this is a tank destroyer. They get excited about the guns. And this machine has 3 guns to choose from, but if you have any common sense, you will never use one of them. So, this is the stock gun. 90mm AC cannon DCA-30. This is basically the gun from the BDR at Tier 5. 240 alpha damage, 135 penetration, etc, etc, etc. You will never use this if you've got any common sense, because you can unlock this gun on the ARL V39. Now, on the ARL, and this is a common theme with the tank destroyers, ARL, there was a choice between a 90mm and a 100mm gun that you could use on that tank, and you could justify the use of either. And this tank's basically a similar deal. This is the same 90mm gun. It's buffed a bit on this tank. So, for example, you have a 2.3 second aim time instead of a 2.9, which is nice. But what do you get with this? You get an 8.7 round per minute rate of fire, which is not too shabby. It's not outstanding, but it's not too shabby. 212 average penetration, which is perfectly sufficient for Tier 7. 240 average damage. That pen goes up to 259 with APCR ammo. And 320 alpha damage and 45 pen with HE rounds. 0.34 dispersion means that this is a pretty accurate gun, and 2.3 second aim time is not terrible, which is very important because, in common with most most French tank destroyers, you have a very narrow gun traverse, so you have to keep moving the hull to keep re-aiming the gun. And this gun you'll already have from the previous tank, so you can use this gun straight away, which is nice. The other option you have is a 100mm gun, the 100mm AC SA-47. It fires 6 rounds a minute, has 232 average penetration, which for a Tier 7 TD is pretty darn good. That goes up to 263 with APCR. 300 average damage, 400 with HE ammo and 50 pen. Same accuracy as the 90mm gun, but a 2.9 second aim time. So what you do is that you get better alpha damage, and you get better penetration, but you lose out on that aim time. Now, my preference, I tried out both of these guns, I preferred using the 90mm, because you end up having to move the tank, and so you end up having to re-aim an awful lot, and that extra bit of aim time on the 100mm gun just frustrated me, so I actually prefer the 90mm gun to the 100, and that's what I used, but your preference might vary. The choice is definitely there for you to make. So that's the gun. Let's have a bit of a quick look at the sort of grind you're facing. So, where are we? French tank destroyers. So you come up here, you have the FT light tank at tier 1, nobody cares, you're going to have to play that anyway. Tier 2, you have the FTAC. This is slow, this is lumbering, it has no armour, it has a very narrow gun traverse. The only saving grace of this tank is that it has a good gun. But most of the tier 2 TDs have a good gun. This is not a completely woeful machine. No, it is a pretty bad machine, let's be honest. You can still do well in it, but it's not good. UE57 at tier 3, some people really like this. This is small, it's lightweight. It's very, very small, and has relatively decent guns. I didn't actually get on with it that much, but some people do. Some USL 40 at tier 4. This is where you start getting these lumps and bumps on the top of your tank, which get really frustrating because they're big, fat, weak spots that just shout at the top of their lungs, "Shoot me." This is not a very good tank. It's slow, it's lumbering, the armour's garbage, and the gun selection is decidedly underwhelming. S35CA, the Bathtub of Doom, is a lethal machine at tier 5. It gets respectable gun depression, a very wide gun arc. It's slow, big gun mantler is the only thing you're really going to get any bounces on, but you can get bounces on it, and it has the option to mount a 100mm gun at tier 5, which is just horrific. 300 alpha damage at tier 5 hurts. Move up to tier 6, the ARL V39 is widely considered one of the worst machines in the game. Can you notice a theme with the French tank destroyers here? A lot of them are not very good. Widely considered one of the worst machines in the game. This is a painful tank to play. It's slow, the armour's terrible, it has a tumour on top that people can shoot before you can shoot them. It's just icky. The gun selection, well, it's up to you what gun you want to use, but Then you get to the AMX AC46, and in my opinion, this is a decided upgrade from the previous machine. So far, all the tanks have been decidedly underwhelming at best, with the exception of the Bathtub of Doom at tier 5, which is a damn good tank. And then you hit the AC46, which in my opinion is not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. So I've spoken about the gun and the fact that it has a very narrow gun traverse, and when I say very narrow, I mean kind of, you know, from there to there sort of narrow, very narrow. But it does actually have very good gun depression, 10 whole degrees of it. And with your 10 degrees of gun depression, that would give you options to get nice bounces on this 120mm of frontal armour. Or at least it would, if you didn't have these great big cancerous tumours on top, which are just horrible. If the tank didn't have these, it would probably be a really good tank, but it does, and so that can make it painful, and that means you have to play it a lot more cautiously than you might otherwise do. It's just annoying. So what consumables? Well, what sort of playstyle would I recommend with this tank? You want to, where possible, engage people from range and use your gun depression to angle that front plate back as much as possible to encourage bounces. That's what you want to do. It doesn't actually brawl that well because it's not got a great traverse speed. The sidearm is garbage and so on and so forth. The DPM on this machine is also not the best. Consumables, well, I've got your standard 3 consumables there. You know, I don't see any reason to recommend anything else really. Ammo loadout, I'm using the 90mm gun here. I've got 5 rounds of APCR loaded. I don't think I've ever actually fired them though. Even on the 90mm gun, the penetration is perfectly sufficient. What equipment would I recommend? Well, I would recommend, if this could take a vertical stabilizer, I would recommend it, but it can't. So, I would recommend gun rammer to make your reload better. I would then recommend an enhanced gun laying drive just to bring that aim time down, because you're going to be moving and having to re-aim an awful lot. And then one of binos or camo net maybe, but you do move a lot, so you tend to reset these, so you might be better off with optics, but your view range is not very good anyway, so optics won't actually make that much difference, so you might as well go for improved vents. Well, that was a pretty quick train of thought, wasn't it? If you think you can keep people at range, go for binos and or camo net. If you think that might be a problem, choose vents instead. I just had my standard grinding equipment, you know, pauper set, toolbox, binos, camo net. Standard bit of kit. Crew skills, don't pay too much attention to what I've got here. I would say 6th Sense on your commander, and camo probably on everybody else to be a sneaky, sneaky little tank destroyer. You could make a case, I guess, for repairs actually as well. Yeah, you could definitely make a case for repairs instead. Take your pick between those, I guess. So I've prattled on long enough. Let's go and have a quick look at the armor scheme, and then we will jump into some gameplay. Just quickly, before we actually look at the armor scheme, it just occurred to me that I haven't talked about the grind on this tank itself. I've talked about the machines leading up to it, but I haven't spoken about this grind. So I've already said that you should have this 90mm gun already unlocked, and you won't have the 100mm gun unlocked because you unlock it on this tank. Top radio is used on a whole bunch of machines, including the ARL-44. I'm not sure if you're going to have that unlocked or not. I can't be bothered to look through that entire long list. It doesn't look like you will, but frankly, who cares? It's a radio. No one ever got that excited about radios. Engines. If you have played down the French heavy line, you will have these engines already unlocked, provided you have played down to at least tier 7. If, however, you haven't, you will have to grind out these engines as well, which will make your grind a little bit more painful. You might want to skip the 100mm gun, but I would not recommend it, because you will have to grind through the 100mm gun anyway on the tier 8 machine, so you might as well do it a tier earlier. Get that grind out of the way, and it means that you can then use that gun on the AMX AC-48 at tier 8, when the penetration of the 90mm gun might be starting to look a little bit ropey, and when you actually have a respectable aim time instead of a slightly longer one. So yeah, they are my thoughts on the grind on this tank. I had already played down the heavy line to tier 7. As you can see, I've still got the AMX M445, so I had a relatively easy time of it. I already had the engines. I just had to unlock the suspension and the top gun, if memory serves. That was my experience. Your experience might vary slightly. It's certainly not the worst grind in the game. So now let's go and have a quick look at the armor. Okay, here we are to have a quick look at the armor scheme. So, as you can see, sides, rear, not even worth talking about, utter garbage. Don't angle this tank. Your side and rear armor's not even worth considering. 40mm, you know, there's HE rounds that could penetrate that. What about your front? Well, it's kind of a good news, bad news situation. Straight from the front, the lower plate is an auto bounce zone, so don't bother shooting at the lower plate. Your frontal plate is 120mm thick, which is nice. Sloped back at a pretty respectable angle of 30-40 degrees, depending on which part of it you're looking at, about 40-odd degrees, giving you effective armor thicknesses of anywhere between like 130 and 180mm. So the front isn't too bad, especially if you can use all 10 degrees of your gun depression, which will pull the plate back at a steeper angle, and you'll start getting some very nice armor values indeed. The section here above the gun gives you some nice effective armor thicknesses, which is also pretty nice. The mantler is very strange and layered, meaning that, okay, there are points where people can bounce, can pen you, but there are also points that will bounce tier 10 guns firing premium ammunition. I mean, that's very nice indeed. But, fly in the... Okay, there's a very small weak spot here, but we don't care about that. Fly in the ointment are these massive great tumours on top. On the one hand, we have 100mm thick here, which, you know, at the very edges can, you know, get values up to 130 of effective armor, but if they hit it square on, you can be penetrated here by tier 5/6 guns. What about on the other side? Well, it's a very similar story, you know, 120 odd pen will go through that with relative ease. And the ears are, you know, are not actually hitboxes, it's worth pointing out. Well, not all of them are hitbox, not all of it is a hitbox, but if you hit either of these square on with pretty much any gun this tank's going to face, it will go through and do damage, which is one of the problems with this machine, the giant facial tumours. Facial tumours are never good, remember this, boys and girls. And so that's really the armour of this thing in a nutshell. If it didn't have these, then using its 10 degrees of gun depression, you could get some pretty nice bounces off the front plate, but it does have these, so in reality, don't expect to ever bounce anything in this machine. as long as someone has shots at the top of your tank here, and it's very difficult to hide these regions, so you can almost always assume that people will have shots here, and that will really wreck your day. So yeah, the armour on the AMX AC46, in practice, not so good. Having said that, let's go and show you some replays of this thing in action. Here we go with game number 1. We are top tier. This is, how I do things. Generally, you have a top tier game and a bottom tier game, so this is our top tier game. We are here on Muravanka, home of the Magic Forest. Well, until patch 9.2, it's home of the Magic Forest, and this is a patch 9.2 replay, so that's where we have it. As of patch 9.3, this map is being changed so completely that it might as well be a completely new map, to be honest. But this is not patch 9.3, this is patch 9.2. And there, just there, you can see the nice gun depression on this tank. So, we are getting into position to sit on this hill and shoot all of the things. Now, there's a risk here. This is an encounter game, and I'm not going near the cap circle. It's a bit of a calculated risk, but, we'll take it anyway. Basically, the thing with going near the cap circle, or overlooking the cap circle, is that you are either more exposed, or you end up sitting at J1 in a boring ass spot that I despise. So I'm over this side of the map instead. Alas, no one has really done a scouting run. There's a couple of nice bushes you can sit in on the edge of the Magic Forest, and you can get some spots off there. But no one's taken advantage of that. There's a Sherman. We managed to put a shot into him. That Sherman's looking very unwell now. Hopefully someone, maybe our E25, will be able to finish him off. And you can see the enemy team's already driven into the cap circle. There we go. E25 finishes off that M4, but our T29 got spotted, so I'm being very cautious here. Leopard, how are you today? And I'm using the 90mm gun here, because I don't really like the 105mm gun on this tank. Finish off that Leopard. It's the aim time, that 2.9 second aim time combined with the narrow gun traverse just makes me so angry. That it mitigates the extra penetration, the extra alpha damage is alright, but meh. I'd rather have the better rate of fire. So I'm using the 90mm gun here. Penetration's good enough. Your mileage may vary. It's up to you. So they've still got someone in the cap circle, but we are currently winning this 3-1. Which is nice. We lost a tier 5, they've lost 2 tier 5s and a tier 7. KV1S has just been spotted. No shots on him. There's probably some houses in between us. Killed their VK, 2801, so we're winning 4 kills to 1. This is going alright. Can I get any shots on that 82? Doesn't look like it, and ooh, KV3 in the wood. Okay, fine. So, I back off, and I'm aiming at his lower plate. There we go, there's one shot in. Now with the 90mm gun, I must be honest, the DPM on this tank is not fantastic. But, oh god, Hellcat. Okay, I think I get one more shot toward the KV3 and then I relocate, or pull back a bit because this Hellcat's going to spot me, but T29 kills the Hellcat, so problem solved. Yeah, the DPM is not fantastic, but the penetration at 212 is alright. The accuracy is pretty good, the aim time could be better. Ooh, we bounce a shot there, so I decided to pull back because I have massive tumours on the top of my tank that are big weak spots, and the frontal armour of this tank is not fantastic to begin with. KV1S there appears to be moving, so he's probably not got the houses as cover anymore, so we have a shot at him, but that just takes out some nearby scenery. Try and track where I think he likely is, and have a shot at that location. 82, we don't have a shot. And the T29 is actually hiding behind me, and there's a KV1. Now this is actually quite dangerous, not because of the KV1, but because the KV1 can spot me, and the KV1 at least has a KV3 friend, and possibly someone else as well. Put a shot through the side of his turret, there's a Hetzer. KV1 is using the howitzer, by the way, the 122mm U11, I think it is, howitzer. Second shot into the side of his turret. And he dies. There's the KV-3 and there's a Hetzer out there. I don't know why there's a Hetzer in this game. He platooned up with a Hellcat because he's stupid. Oh well. Now, the KV-3 is the bigger threat, so I prioritise the KV-3. That shot, alas, bounces. There's a KV-1S to my left-hand side, which is a little bit worrisome. Hoping this KV-1S is going to back off. I don't know who keeps putting shots into our KV-1S. Oh Christ, there's an IS as well. They're all over here. Bleeding neck. Right, their KV-1S is down. We are winning this quite convincingly, but all the enemy tanks appear to be over on this side of the map, except for the T-150. So, and down there. Use the gun depression and miss the shot. Oh well. Bounce a shot there though, which is a little bit lucky. So when you're using all of your gun depression, you angle that frontal plate back and you can get bounces on it. That's how you bounce things in this tank. You use the gun depression. That's how you bounce things in a number of tanks actually, including the AMX M445, for example. Right, so the IS has made it around. I take a snapshot there. I just want to back off really, but I take the shot in case it hits. RT-29, I only just realised is not fully upgraded. Looks like he's using the 90mm gun on the stock turret. Fair enough. Still not a terrible tank with that setup. T-150 is down, so the IS, KV-3 are both over here, and the artillery just missed his shot. So, IS, one shot into him. T-29 doesn't manage to do anything. Put in another shot, we take some pain. Bounce that shot. I'll probably reload before the KV-1, before the IS does, but there's the KV-3, and bounce a shot on the front of him. Jesus. I'm not having much luck with some of these shots, and I'm having to take them as snapshots because I don't want to sit still. If I sit still, they can aim for my weak spots, and then I have problems. Shot into the KV-3 again. One more should finish him off. He's only got 39 health left. He manages to take out our T-29, but he dies, leaving the IS as the lone remaining survivor over here. Now, he could kill me in one more shot, but it will probably take him two. Put that shot into him. Keep moving so that he doesn't have easy shots at me. He flubs his shot. That's never going to penetrate. T-50 is coming around behind him. The cavalry's arriving now. But I want to pick up some more experience before this game expires. IS takes out the T-50. I put a shot through the side of his turret. And Hellcat finishes him off. And there we go. Game over. Have a look at the post-battle results. You'll see we were, despite the number of bounces we got, we were able to rack up a good amount of damage when we were top tier. So have a look at the post-battle results. We were also able to bounce a couple of shots. And then we'll look at the second game, where we are very definitely not top tier. Here is game number 2, and you can see that actually this is the same map as before, and the same game mode, but different spawn. We're spawning in the north rather than the south this time. This is a tier 9 game. There are 3 tier 9s per side, one of which is artillery, a GW Tiger in each case, who, if he landed a shot on us, would completely wreck our face. And we are very much at the bottom of the feeding pool. I am platooned up with a couple of guys you may have seen in other videos, Blaze and Wagged. They're both in their T-29s. And this time, instead of going into the forest, because the forest doesn't give me anywhere to use my gun depression, I'm going to go and try and cover the cap circle. And you can see here that we're getting an opportunity to get up to 43-44 kilometers an hour, which is not too shabby. So the speed on this thing is not too bad. I mean, it's not the knife fighter that the Su-100M1 can be. KV-4's killed their Panther already. Huh. Sweet. Oh, but he's taking a pasting in return. Yeah, but it's mobile enough, and the gun depression really is nice to have. So here is a bush. You may have seen me actually use this position in an artillery piece, and now I'm using it in a tank destroyer. It is quite a nice position to have. The bush you can keep far enough away that firing through it won't negate its cover bonus, so basically you won't just give your position away by shooting through it, although obviously the enemy will get a rough idea of where you are. You're in that direction, but they're going to get that anyway. And we're trying to cover the cap circle here. There's a Panther 2 who moves up. Again, I'm using the 90mm gun rather than the 100 because it's my preference. And our AMX 5100 has just gone completely YOLO, don't really know why. That shot looked like it hit the turret of the Type 59. Wagged and Lass gets caught out and dies. That one also bounces on the Type 59, but these are shots that would probably bounce if I was using the 100mm gun as well, so whatever. That shot, however, looks like it sails right through his lower plate, which is exactly where I was aiming it, which is nice. And the accuracy on this gun, or on both of the guns available on this tank, or both of the top guns, is pretty nice. So again, we're just waiting to see if we can get some spots, or if someone can get some spots. And this is going to be very much a typical tank destroyer game, you know, don't expect us to be up close in people's faces and pretending we're a medium tank. I ain't gonna do it. You can just about get away with it in some tank destroyers when they're top tier, but not in this tank destroyer when it's bottom tier, just no. So T-34, there's a whole bunch of them lit up there. Have that shot, goes to the front of the T-34's hull. Alas, that was a low damage roll, it was kind of irritating, but never mind. Track him there, he pulls back and the shot doesn't go quite where I aimed it anyway. Put another one into him, and he disappears from view, so we just change targets to this T-34. That bounces, I don't know how, I think it might have gone up and hit the front of his turret instead. That one, however, goes straight through, 258. He's tracked, and Blaze picks up the kill. Back to the other T-34, who has just cropped up again. There we go, we're just working him over. Another low damage roll, alas, but there we go. Blaze puts in a nice shot and the ST1 STI finishes him off. Now there's an M103, he can be a bit tricky. I either want to get him in the side armour or lower plate, if I possibly can. That appears to possibly have tracked him. Screw it. I can apparently get shots into his turret ring or possibly through the front of his turret, as I do there, and then a KV-4 finishes him off. And we're winning 9-3 here, which is nice. And so now I finally decide this position has outlived its usefulness, so I'm going to move up. The ST1 is saying, basically, he's capping, but he's capping to make the move. He's not trying to actually cap this game out. It's like, fair enough. He just wants to draw their attention and force them to do something about the cap circle. So, that's not a terrible idea. Fair enough. I mean, he is a top tier heavy tank. You could argue he should be moving up, but the flip side is he's so slow he might struggle to get anywhere useful before the game's over. And what he's doing is kind of securing it a bit more, so okay, I don't have a massive problem. Tiger's moving across my vision, so I put a shot into him, so does Blaze. Can I get one more before he disappears? Alas, no. He's on 104 health. So there's him, T-34-1, GW Tiger, and an E-75 remaining on the enemy team. And we bomb it forward. CST1 has moved out the cap circle now. He's advancing to shoot some things, so good man. And there's that E75. Do I have any shots on him? Nope. So, screw it. There's the T-34-1. Don't have any shots on him either, but there's their artillery. And I will have shots on him. One. And he dies. As soon as an artilleryman gets spotted, he isn't going to last very long. Oh, that T-34-1 just got ammo racked by the KV-4. And the ST1, STI, don't give a shit, whatever. takes out the Tiger, so that just leaves the E75. Wagged says, well played. Yep, team did well. It was a good game all over. The E75's on 1 health. Centurion puts him out of his misery. There we go, bottom tier, and we managed to do a respectable amount of damage. Now, we were not spotting for ourselves, so our XP was not the highest, but respectable amount of damage, bottom tier, in a tier 7 tank destroyer, not too shabby. So have a look at the post-game results, and then we'll flip back to the garage. My thoughts on this. Well, initially when I started playing it, I actually had quite a lot of fun. As time has progressed, it has annoyed me more and more, and the limitations of it have annoyed me more and more, so I'm not going to keep this machine. But it's certainly a machine you can have good fun in, and you can do fairly well in. It sits on a quite awkward tech line. The French tank destroyer line is not the nicest line to play down in the world. It's really not. But if you can stomach it, then you can probably end up doing fairly well. So there we go. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, or found it vaguely entertaining, informative even. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. And I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao, ciao.